Hello, welcome to my shop. My name is Bob Silkensen, and you can see this is my shop because it says so. So today I hope to do a demonstration on turning a Rude Osolnik-style candlestick. Well, actually it'll be a Bob Roseanne-style candlestick because he's the one that showed the club how to do it back in September of 2012. So if you can get a hold of the October 2012 Richmond Area Woodturners newsletter, you can see here's the candlestick that Bob Roseanne turned. Now he does things very slightly different than Rude Osolnik. I get it sooner or later. These are some samples of Rudy's work. These are just pictures off the internet. And you can see it's a very stylistic, very modern looking candlestick holder that he made popular in the 40s, 50s, 60s in that area. I've heard he's turned actually thousands of these. In fact, there's several stories that he says he put his kids through college turning these candlesticks. He would do 30, 40, 50, 80, 100 a day. I heard one story that said at night he would prepare the blanks. He'd get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, turn 60 candlesticks, then have breakfast and go to work. So that's the kind of person he was, and he was just an avid turner. Here's some more samples of what he did. When I look on the internet, I find more of these out of walnut. This first one looked like it might have been maple or some sort of light wood, but what you normally see is a walnut style like this. And what I've seen a lot are these two styles. This one here on this side is one style where the skinny part is about 2/3 the way up, and then the other style is where the skinny part is closer to the top, and that top angle is a much more angle than the bottom angle. But those are the two styles. In fact, if you go and look, you'll find just dozens and dozens of candlesticks attributed to Rude Osolnik. So we are going to try to do it today. What I want to do is something like this. I like the modern design. I think lends itself to a black and a white, if they put a white candlestick. And the other thing that Bob Roseanne liked to do was put this little ferrule in here. It's a 1/2 inch ferrule for a 1/2 inch candle. The 1/2 inch candle, very popular, and when you put the two together, very nice looking. The problem with a wax candle is that if you're the person that likes to go to craft fairs and you sit in a canopy in 90 or 95 degree weather, a wax candle will start looking something like that. So Bob Roseanne had an idea. Well, let's make our own candle. So for display purposes, it looks like that. Let me back it up so you can get the whole thing in there. Okay, now this candle is made out of holly. This is a wooden candle, and it really displays the black and the white together, very modern looking. And if we have time, maybe I'll show you how to do this. It's nothing to making this. You just get a piece of holly, 10 inches long, and make it a 1/2 inch diameter all the way down. You drill a little hole, you taper it, you put a little hole in the tip. You soak a piece of string in CA and glue it down in the hole. So that's a real simple thing to do. Probably won't get into that. But this we will get into. What I like to do is make them in sets of 3. Here's an 8 inch and here's a 10 inch. So today we're going to try to turn a 12 inch. So the 3 will go together as a set. I'm not sure why I like 3. Just looks good. Rudy has tons and tons of sets out there of 2, 3, 5, 15. So just whatever you want out there. So we are going to take a block of wood, and this block is just over 2 3/4, yeah, right at 2 3/4. And we're going to need something at least 2 3/4 because the base of the candle is 2 1/2. The top of the candlestick, is 2. So 2 1/2 is the thickness we want to end up with. So we need something at least maybe 2 3/4 to start with. The length is 1 inch longer than the candlestick I hope to make, because I got to have some room to chuck it up. See, that's only 13, so that only gives me 1 inch to play with out here. Back to Rudy, I heard stories that he turns his through between centers the entire way. He'll turn it, just take it off, let the lathe keep running, stick up the next one, and keep going. So I can't imagine how he did that, but I'm going to round this off, put a tendon on one end, put it in the chuck, bring the tailstop up, and finish rounding it, and at least get it started. So that's where we're headed. I'll get that started right away. Okay, as you can see, I've got my block chalked up here. I haven't started turning it yet. I wanted to talk about shape real quick before I got into this too far. This is the shape I'm going for. What I have done before is a little different shape like this. You can see it's laminated piece of wood. But the problem is this narrow part's about the right distance here, but it gets fat right in here. Kind of reminds me of the Dr. Seuss children's books. You have thing 1 and thing 2, got kind of a big head, a long skinny neck, and then fat body. It's too big and rounded in here. This should have been tapered much down into the base than it is here. But you can, this is just a sample of lamination that you can do. Looks nice. Another lamination I've done is this one. You can see it's a walnut and maple lamination. The shape is a little bit better. I could have taken out a little bit more in here, but it's a very slender, nice looking. The lamination, you can see, kind of goes all the way through. Takes a while to laminate it up, all that pieces of wood. But then when you turn it, this is my wife's. She won't even let me talk about selling this because she likes this one. So I've got a set of 3 like this upstairs also. Okay, so let's see what we can get into here. Okay, I'm going to start turning this round. I'm going to leave the camera where it is while I turn this round because it's not really important. Everybody knows how to make a piece of wood round. Then I'm going to move the camera in closer, probably over this way directions, so you can see how I start doing the shaping. To round it off, I'm going to use a spindle roughing gouge. You could use a skew if you like. This is an excellent project for using a skew. I'm going to use a spindle roughing gouge for nearly the entire thing. There's some parts I have to do with a parting tool. Most of it I'm going to do with this. So set this on, make sure we're tight. Everybody's locked in. Let's see what we can do. I'm not going to film this part. Let me go round it off and then I'll come back to the camera. Okay, before I move the camera, I just wanted to go through one thing. This is my piece of wood. I had it turned the other way. I put a tendon on this end for my dovetail type jaws, and then I'm flipping it over, brought it up snug, tighten this up. So now I'm ready to turn it. I don't have to have this. In fact, in a little while I have to take it away to do the top. I have to make the little dip out for the candle. I like to make a small concave area to put the ferrule in. And when I get to it, I'm going to talk some more about the ferrule. There's different kinds I use. So I'm going to bring the camera in closer so we can cut this down to 2 inches. This is the top. And then down here is going to have to be 2.5 inches. So I'm going to set my calipers first at 2.5 and just turn this area to be 2.5. Then I'll reset them and get this down to 2. Okay, I've got my calipers set to 2.5 inches right at the moment. So I'm going to go on this end and set this at 2.5. See where we're at. It's about 2 3/4 right now, so I don't have too far to go. but I know from about here on out, 12 inches from the tip to here, it's got to be 2.5 or less. So I can take out quite a bit. I'm not good. This is probably the wrong kind of caliper, so I'm just under 2.5 already. That's over. So I'm not going to go any farther. I'm a 16th or a 32nd under 2.5. So let me reset these to 2. See if I can do a little better job getting the other end to 2 exactly. All right, there's 2. I'll back it off a hair. Now I'm going to take this down to about 2. Hope these chips are flying into the camera. Sixteenth farther. That to me looks like it's about 2. So that's just a hair over 2. So when I sand it, get to it, that's going to be pretty good. I'm trying to get this down semi-even, the fattest part being 2.5 on this end. Let me try to stay out of the camera way here. So I'm going to take this down a little bit more. To 2. Now I'm going to take the live center tailstock away so I can get to this tip. Pushing it out as far as I can. I'm going to move this over here a little. And I'm going to get a gouge so that I can hollow out that little bit. Is it camera? Am I going to be in the way? Let me stop that and readjust the camera. Okay, I'm going to take and dish this out just a little bit. And I want to leave a little dimple there because I got to come back with a Forstner bit to make the hole for the candlestick. So I'm going to try to take this as smooth as I can. Normally I'd bring my light over to this side, but I just tried it and it messes up the camera. So, oh, it's way too high. I'm using a 3/8 inch bowl gouge with the so-called Irish fingernail grind. I have a spindle gouge right here, but I didn't sharpen it before I started, so I'm going to use this one since I did sharpen it. So, I want to do a little bit of a concave work in here. That vibration is my lathe. I've got a kind of a light jet 1442, something like that. But it's kind of a small chuck and a small lathe. So, because I'm 12 inches, 13 inches away from the stock, trying to turn that. How about if we try to make a little dimple there for the Forstner bit. I think right now I'd probably like to sand that also, because I'm not sure if I'm going to get another chance. Let me grab a piece of sandpaper real quick. But, I got to get something a little rougher. Back the camera up. I want to talk about ferrules for a second. The part that the candle actually sits into at the top of the candlestick is a little ferrule like this. Now, if you're using, I didn't bring one down, the full size 3/4 inch or 7/8 candles that are more normal, you can buy those ferrules from a craft supply place, and then you have to drill a little different hole than I am. I got a little, I like to use the 1/2 inch candle. It's more slender, goes with the design of the candlestick a little better, I think. And this is a brass or bronze bushing that I got this from Fastenal, Fastenal. And I've also bought them from MSC. It's just a 1/2 inch inside diameter, 5/8 inch outside diameter, and a 1/2 inch tall. I have tried also the 3/8 tall ones. I don't think they hold the candlestick up as well, so I try to stick with 1/2 inch deep, 1/2 inch center, 5/8 outside diameter. Now, if you're too cheap to buy, which I started out way too cheap to buy bronze ones, this is a copper one. Okay, there's nothing wrong with doing copper. You just have to file a little bit. And where do you get copper? Lowe's, Home Depot, somebody like that. And you can buy one of these little cheap pipe cutters. Put that on there, cut it off at a 1/2 inch deep, round off some of the sides. I think I've also seen people actually put a ball peen hammer in there to kind of flare it out a little bit so the candle can sit better. So you can go as expensive or as cheap as you like. It doesn't really matter because it just barely shows at the top. Okay, I brought the camera in close again, and you can see I've got a Jacob's chuck here and a 5/8 inch Forstner bit. And so I'm going to turn the speed way down, what, 300-400 maybe. And I'm going to take it in. Now the head of the Forstner bit is 3/8 of an inch tall. And when I put the bushing in, there's the bushing, I want just maybe a 32nd to a 16th sticking out. So I'm going to go just slightly deeper than the head of that bit. And since it's nice, soft maple, soft curly maple, I guess it is. All right, there's the depth of the head of the bit. So I'll go about that much farther. Now the ferrule should fit right in there. I could tap and push it in. I could just push it in. There it goes. In fact, what I'm going to do is take this out and get my live center back. This time I'm going to use the large cone live center and put it right into that ferrule bushing thing there. And first thing I'm going to do is make sure that bushing is in as far as it's going to go. And that's it. That's tight. Now I can leave that in there while I style or form the rest of this. Okay? I think I'll change the camera again so you can come in more this other angle. Okay, I brought the camera around a little bit more on my side so we can see the shaping. First thing we have to do is decide how long we're going to be. We've already decided that, but I want to mark it. 12 inches is right there. So I'm about 5/8 of an inch from the tip. So that's the length of my entire candlestick holder. Now, where's the narrowest point? If we go by the golden mean or golden ratio or whatever you want to call it, it's about 2/3, between 60 and 60 something percent. So what's 60% of 12? 0.6 is 7.2. So if I go 7.2 from the end, so maybe 7 1/4, 7 3/8 maybe. We'll go with 7 3/8. I mean, if I wanted to get a calculator and measure it exactly, we could do that, but we just want that. So I'm going to mark that, and I actually want to cut that part first. So I'm going to make 2 cuts with the parting tool, one here at the midpoint, and one here to delineate the base. Let's do the base first. Let me speed that up. And I'm up to about 1600. And they're going to mark the narrow point. I don't want to take that too deep because I still want to form my candlestick to that point, and I'm going to cut it deeper. I don't want to make it too weak right there now. So now we're just going to shape it away. I think I got my a little too low. Make sure I don't lose that mark. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but right there, that's going to be the thinnest point, and I'm just trying to work my way down to that. I'll switch back and forth the parting tool, take it a little deeper. And then work my way toward that again. This is where you have to be careful with the skew, because I got a nice sharp shoulder right there. If I come in from this way, I got to make sure I don't hit that shoulder, and when I come in from this way, I got to make sure I don't hit the opposite shoulder. And the same with this tool. It does have a shoulder there, but that 1/8 of an inch gap is enough room to clear. And take the parting tool, go down a little deeper. You get down, that's about 5/8 of an inch thick right in the middle. So as I'm tapering this, I got to make sure I taper all the way from the very corner down to that narrow part. But the base, I'm not going to taper it from maybe an inch from the bottom, 1.5 inches, and then taper it in. There may be a slight tapering here, but not much. think I'm a little high. As I get closer to center, I'm having to tip this down too much and I can't catch that bevel. So I'm going to go a little lower so I can get that bevel in there. Okay, while it still has some thickness here and some good support, I'm going to try to get that gentle curve. Starting up here, curve all the way down, ending someplace down in here. I want it to be a nice, complete curve, and then I'll get it a little narrower, trying to maintain that curve. I'm trying to remember where that thin part was that I marked. Try and take it down a little bit. I don't want it to go all the way with that tool. I want to finish it with this tool where I can get a nice cut. I'm not sure where that vibration is coming from. This is where, if you wanted to measure that to make sure that this is the same thickness as your other ones, this is about the point you want to start measuring that. To me, it still looks a little bit fat, and I still have to go a little more curve. This is a little too flat. This is a little too flat. So I need to get that curve in there. Here's where I might bring up one of the ones I'm trying to emulate. See if it's similar. This still looks a little fat to me compared to that one. This is not too bad. There's a little bit of a hump right here I'd like to take out. And this is not too bad. Maybe a sanding will make that a little nicer. It's just a very gentle curve all the way down through there. This is a little flat maybe, so I'll take a little bit more out of here and see if I can round that and take that hump off there. want this curve to start at the very edge. When you get in that area, make sure you don't push, because that's really weak right there. I could show you some of the other ones I've maybe pushed a little too hard, and I have multiple funnel-shaped things now. So that looks a little hump right there. A little rough spot right there. Alright, how's that look now? Alright, one more comparison. This could be a little thinner. It just scares me. I'm looking up here. Let me sand that, see what that would look like. The other thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure this is a little thing that Bob Roseanne taught us. Make this base, this waist piece, the exact same diameter as that, or maybe us a little smaller. So let me go back here. Making the waist piece slightly smaller than that, and I'll explain that later when we go to put a bottom on it. Okay. So I'm going to stop filming right now and go into sanding. I don't think you want to watch me sand. That's the most boring thing in the world. But you probably saw behind me I got a whole wall of sandpaper here, and we'll sand that up. Okay, you can see I've still got it chucked up here with live center for support, and I have to leave that live center there because I'm sanding this. That is really fragile. In fact, when you sand, you don't want to push hard on this area at all. I was using these little, they call it wood turner strips, and I was sanding with that, and you can tell there's a difference in the sound. You probably can't hear it on the camera. But there's a little different sound right in there as that gets a little thin. Then, to help this a little bit, I spritzed it with alcohol to raise the grain. So now the grain's nice and tall, and I'm going to give it a light coat of wood sealer, shellac wood sealer, finish and sealer. Because the next step, I don't want that on there. I don't want it to soak in too much. Okay, we put a coat of sanding sealer on here and lightly touched it with 320 again. It's pretty nice right now. And now I'm going to make it black. And this is what I use to make it black. It's just straight leather dye, USMC black, and it's just shoe polish that you would get at any store. This particular one it's called US Marine Corps black, and it is black, black, black. Make sure there's no dust on there, and look how black that makes that. Just, I'm not sure you can see it yet. Let me get on around the other side. And this makes it black, just like shoe leather. And it's much darker than perhaps ebonizing or trying to use some sort of way of darkening the wood. I just want to pull that out a little bit so I can get some in this on the top part here. I'm going to bring that up again because I do not want to put any strain on this middle section at all. So I'm going to go on and soak in the rest of this. And you can see that it is just as black can be. Now, why do I do the black? I have a son and a daughter-in-law who have a kind of a modern decor in their house. And a lot of it is glass and black and white. And this fits in right perfectly with their style. And I would hope it would fit in with other people's style also. So there we go, just black, black, black. Now, if you don't like this, there's nobody says you have to make it black. In fact, if I was doing walnut or some other kind of exotic wood, I certainly wouldn't make it black. So there we go. Gonna let that sit. Maybe bring the camera in. Well, I'm just gonna let that sit and dry, and then we'll come back and see what we need to do. I think I'm gonna do a lacquer spray finish on the outside. Okay, we're at a point. I've put the shoe polish on there. I let it dry for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, maybe half hour even. And now I'm going to get some spray lacquer, keep the sawdust off my hands, and see if I can get a coat of spray lacquer on that. I may have to do like a 600 or 800 grit in between each coat, but I want to get like maybe 4 or 5 coats of lacquer on here before it can be real nice and shiny. And if I'm going to rub this at all, I'm going to leave that tailstock in there. But when I do the end, I'll take the tailstock off, of course. Okay? You don't need to watch me spray it. All right, it's spinning real slow. I've sprayed it, hopefully a very light coat of lacquer on there. And I got to let that dry. And the lacquer dries pretty quick, so it's not going to be a terribly long time. I'll let that dry, either hit it with steel wool or maybe 600 grit paper, just enough to rough it up so the next coat will stick good. Okay, looks nice right now. Okay, where we're at now, I have gone ahead and put in several coats of lacquer on here. I did a little 600 and 800 grit sanding in between each one. I actually sanded a little bit deep in one spot, and I had to do some black lacquer to spritz over where I sanded too much. So I've got to be careful of that. Now it's nice and shiny. I want to take and cut this off and finish out the base. So I'm going to grab a parting tool and part this on off. I might have to back this up a little bit. Grab my parting tool, which I've lost. Oh no, there it is. Okay. Does that bother you if I turn that on? It's a little bit bright. So I'm going to go ahead and part this off here. I do not want this to interfere with me. So I'm going to back that all the way off. I got to be careful that any pressure on this is going to snap that in the middle, so I don't want to do that. So we'll just part off down through here. Now what I want to do is kind of go at an angle uphill. Take a little bit off that downside shoulder, and now I'm going to go up through this way. Excuse my fingering there. I'm going to go kind of at an angle because when this is done, I want it to sit on this outside edge, not on the bottom at all. So I'm going to go at an angle as I go up. Just wanted to widen that groove a little bit so it doesn't catch. We're getting close here. And you might want to stop here and saw it off, because if this comes off a little bit and hits the tool rest, it makes a terrible dent. It's almost impossible to clean off. But okay, nice and crisp. I was able to catch it. I'm quite happy with that. It turned out real nice. Now what we're going to do is treat the bottom. I want to get this off here. And what I'm going to do is actually drill a hole, probably an inch diameter hole, 3/4 to an inch deep, and fill it full of weights. Okay, so, one thing I wanted to do while I had it right here, I wanted to show you what I'm going to do with this. This little nub here, I want to save that because this is the exact diameter as the base of the candlestick, maybe just slightly less, but I'm going to take it off here. Just trying to smooth out this bottom. That's pretty good. So it's slightly concave, which is fine. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with that when we get back to that point. Right now I'm going to go over and get my drill and come back and see if I can cut drill a hole in the base of that candlestick. All right, before I went to drill it, I'll go get a drill in a second, but I got to sand that little nib off and sand a little concave in there to make sure that it's going to sit flat on the outside of that rim. And what I do, I usually just chuck up a Jacob's chuck with a sanding disc and hit that middle. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to glue a piece of felt on here at the end, and I want it to sit fairly flat. Now, one thing I've done that makes it a little more difficult, I've lost the middle. You can see a round spot there, but when I go to drill that, it's going to kind of wander, and I'm not going to find the middle. But who cares? It's going to sit flat on a desk like that, and you're not going to see the weight. As long as the weight's in the bottom, in the base, it'll keep it from tipping over. So I'm going to get my drill. I'm going to come back, drill it on camera, show you how I do that. Okay, I've backed the camera up a little bit. I chucked up a paddle bit. Now you can use a paddle bit. You can use, this is a 1 inch. You could use a 1 inch Forstner bit if you want. Or you can use a 1 inch auger bit. What I found with this is that when that sucker grabs, it grabs. And I'd have to find some mechanical way to hold the candlestick. And I just don't want to mar up that finish after spending so much time doing that. So what I'm going to try to do is just use a paddle bit and go in here by hand. Tighten that up a little bit more. Change the clutch on that. Maybe you ought to start with a sharp one. Well, if that catches my coat, I'm going to be in deep trouble, aren't I? My turning smock. Now, when Bob Roseanne was at our club doing it, he'd hold this down between his legs and do it this way. I'm just not that brave. I think I'm done with my family, but I just don't want to take a chance. So we're going to do it this way some more. Last time I did this, it's worked pretty good. This must have been back when the bit was sharp. It's only about ½ inch deep. I need to go a little bit deeper, I think. Either that bit's really getting bad, or I'm getting weak, or both. So I'm going to stop there. It's about 3/4 inch deep. I'm going to go get my weights and show you how I fill that. And then we'll show you how I put the felt cover on it. Okay, this section here, I'm just going to weight the bottom. You can see where I've got a nice hole in the bottom of that, 1 inch diameter, and just slightly, what is that, concave. And what I'm going to do is fill it full of, I don't think you can see those. Little shotgun pellets is what they are. I went online to a shotgun reload area and bought a 5-pound bag of pellets. So what I do is fill it maybe half full of pellets, about half full, and fill it with CA. This is a medium thick, so we'll just oh, bummer. I stopped. I had to cut off a little bit. This was clogged. So what I'm going to try to do is, you can see I'm just dripping it in here. Hopefully you can see that. Make sure that all those little beads are soaked pretty good. Fill in some more. I don't want to overfill it, because I don't want them beads sticking up. I'll take one out. I was going to tell you a story. These little shotgun pellets, I used to call them lead pellets, but they're not actually lead. And how I found out about that is I was using this weighted, I don't know, 5 or 10 pounds of lead shot. I was using it to hold a piece that I had just glued, and I was just going to leave it overnight. So I set that 5-pound bucket up on top of that thing I was gluing and walked away. And as soon as I walked away, I heard this humongous crash, and it took me the next 5 years to pick those things up. In fact, I'm still finding them in the corners of the shop. All right, so I've completely loaded this. I could spritz this with the accelerant, but I think I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to set it over here on a bench. I'm going to come back with my other one that I've already glued these in the bottom, and we're going to show about how to put the felt bottom on that. Put this somewhere where it won't tip over. I'm back. Now this is what it looks like after you've glued in some weight in the bottom. These are steel. The reason I didn't want them to be lead is because after I dropped them, I had to get a big magnet and go around and crawl around on the shop for days picking all these little beads up. And I still find them in just about everything I do. Let me get everything over here. Now you remember that little nub that we had left? It's exactly the same size, or it's just a hair under what this is. And so I'm going to use this to cut that piece of felt for that. I have some felt that was left over from, I had a little accident with my pool table and had to have the felt replaced. So now I have some lots of chunks of felt, but you can buy it at Michael's or the Joann's Fabric or wherever you want. So what I do is I take just a piece of wood, any kind of scrap wood you got, sandwich the felt up in there, and put that against, center that, maybe a little closer. Try to get that up nice and flat. Turn my lathe way down. And what I want to do, I got a nice sharp blade in my utility knife, and I'm just going to put it up here while this is turning. And that felt should now be the exact same size. Peel that off there, and what's left is the exact diameter I need to glue to my bottom of my candlestick. So that's how I do felt. I do it. I've done some with the cork that you can buy at the craft stores. It's got sticky on one side. So you do the same thing. You cut it square, peel the sticky off, and stick it on there. This I'm going to put some CA glue around the outside. CA around the outside, and stick that on there and have a nice soft base. So that is how I do my Rude Osolnik, is that how you say it? Osolnik candlestick style candlestick. I hope you've gotten something out of this. Hello, I am back up in my office now. I've left the shop. Here's a set of 3 candlesticks that I have done. This is the one that we did on the demo. And these are 2 I did before. And I just wanted to go over the part that I didn't feel was really necessary, but was creating these nice holly candlesticks. I'm going to try to put the actual web address of where I bought this holly on the screen, probably right over in here, I'm going to hope, and where you can buy some more holly like this. And it's the clearest, whitest holly that I've found anywhere. And in fact, they also sell black wood. So if you want to do a white candlestick or maybe a light maple, this is black wood, and I made a candlestick out of it just to have something contrast. I don't think that looks very good. That's not very tight. That's a little thin. That one doesn't look too bad. But anyhow, I wanted to give you the website. If I can't get it to come up on the video, then I will somehow get it out to everybody to make sure. But I just want everybody to know that I've enjoyed making this video. It's the first one I've done like this, and I've found a lot of equipment and tips online and editing software and just tons of other stuff. So I hope you got something out of it. Thank you.